Thank you very much, Alice. And thanks for all of you who I paid $5 each to stand up when I get introduced. But I can't thank you for having me come after Dion, for goodness sakes. Right after such a great guy. Dion and I have had a lot of fun campaigning together. It was a couple of months ago. That's when I really got into trouble. Every time I hang around this guy, we went down to Charlottesville, and Charlottesville had voted to take down the statue of Robert E. Lee that's been there since 1924. Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. It's not just happening in New Orleans, it's happening here in Virginia. But anyway, we got there, and there were all these lunatic lefty protesters. And before we got there, they were just, if you think that they're really like principled, they're not. There was a woman there who was like, who wants an Indivisible t-shirt? And then she threw it over there. I'm not kidding, that's what they did. Who wants a Black Lives Matter t-shirt? And somebody said, hey, I'll take that one. So they threw it out there, and they kind of organized it that way. But anyway, we got there. Maria was there with me. And we've been married 22 years, my wife Maria. So we got there, and first of all, there was something which I had never seen outside of the circus. A woman with a beard. There was a woman with a beard. And Dion, nobody ever said anything to her probably, because everybody's so politically correct nowadays. But Dion's not. And she came up and she was screaming, and she was screaming at Dion saying, "You're a white supremacist." And he goes, "I'm black." And then he goes, "And by the way, you might want to do something about this." This wasn't just like a couple of, stubbles. I mean, it was like a full beard. It was a real beard. It was really incredible. There was another guy who had his megaphone right in our ear, and it was anyway. Well, it's a long story, but we've had a lot of work and a lot of fun on the campaign trail. And talking about a lot of fun on the campaign trail, Alice takes the cake. How many hours has she spent on the campaign trail? What was that number you gave me earlier on?
4,800 last year.
4,800 hours on the campaign trail. And her sergeant at arms, the one who's been working really, really hard with Virginia Women for Trump, and that's Laura Morris. Give it up for Laura. So Alice and I had a great time. We've been through some groups. We traveled all around the state. Sometimes we'd show up, there'd be like 3 people there. You travel, across the state, there'd be 3 people there, but that's the way it goes. And then other times, when we were at the national convention, Maria and I were coming out right after Trump spoke, and there's this gurney with this woman, and they're rushing this person past us, and we're like, oh my gosh, whatever happened to her? And Maria goes, that's Alice! That's Alice! And it was, we followed her all the way, and we were like, oh my God, what happened? And they said, oh, she fell down an entire flight of concrete steps in Cleveland at the convention center there. No kidding, she fell and hit.
For Trump.
She fell for Trump.
What?
Fell for Trump.
Well, I thought you said a thump for Trump. But it was the next morning, and we were really worried about her. And we get this text with a picture of Alice in front of the hospital, and there she is in the wheelchair with a sign. What did it say?
Make America safe again.
Make America safe again. It's really true. So, now here you think about this. You have a president, he's an outsider. He comes to Washington, he doesn't have a lot of friends here, because he's not part of the establishment. And he has trouble getting people in to the administration because the establishment and the Democrats are putting all this pressure, and they're making it very difficult for the president to bring in his staff. They're stonewalling the background checks and everything else. And within a few weeks of the administration, the president says, look, I'm going to keep my promise. and I'm going to do something, and then when he does it, the whole left goes crazy, right? They go crazy. They go absolutely insane. And not just the left, but the establishment Republicans too. And you know who that president was? Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan. Just a few weeks into his administration, they test his patients, they go on strike, they're traffic controllers, and he fires them. All of them. And you know, when you look back in history to this day, and I just saw one of the Reagan administration officials say, that was the most important thing that the president did on foreign policy. And you're looking at it like, how does that make sense? Because the message was clear. This guy's crazy. He is actually going to do something which nobody does in Washington, D.C. He's going to keep his promise. And he doesn't make false threats. And that's exactly what Reagan did. And that is what we just saw President Trump do with Comey. The FBI is arguably the most respected institution in the federal government. And over the past year, though, it's taken a big black eye, hasn't it? Yes. Because he's been waffling back and forth. And even the Democrats were saying, oh, you know, after he came back, after Hillary, oh, you got to fire this guy, you got to fire this guy. Even as late as January, actually in March, they were saying, oh, you got to fire Comey, he's terrible, you know, he's, and now Trump actually fires him. And they're saying, we can't believe you fired him. We can't believe you fired him. And now, I don't know how many of you saw this, but Maxine Waters, talking about a piece of work. Maxine Waters. She says, I can't believe that Trump fired Comey. And then the reporter said, well, what if it was Hillary Clinton? Well, that would have been okay. This is true. Look it up. True, absolutely true. The left has gone absolutely bonkers, and they know that the end is nigh to the Democratic Party, folks. The end is close. There's only one thing that has kept the Democratic Party together. Power. That's it. Because they don't have an ideology. They lost it years ago with Lyndon Johnson. They started assembling all of these disparate groups that have nothing to do with one another. Nothing. They don't have a central ideology. The only thing they want to do is gather together so they can win elections. And now that that's not happening, they're coming apart at the seams. Now, how do I know that's happening? Well, and I joined the campaign. I was asked, we got a call from the campaign in December of 2015. President Trump, candidate Trump, was coming to Manassas, and they called me up and said, Donald Trump would like you to chair his campaign in Virginia. And this just came out of the blue, and I said, I've never met the guy. I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, would you like to meet him? And I said, absolutely. So Marie and I went down there, and he called us forward here, and we were talking, and meanwhile, I don't know if you remember this, but this is at a time when everybody was debating whether or not his hair was real. And the entire time, I swear to God, Maria was checking out his hair. I had kind of elbow or whatever, but he had asked me to chair his campaign. I had to think twice about it because the county that I lead, and I'm directly elected by all 454,000 residents of Prince William County. I've done it 4 times. It's 54% minority. I've had to work it. No other Republicans have been able to do it. And I knew that if I chaired his campaign, he was so controversial that this is crossing the Rubicon. There's no going back. There's no going back. And I know a lot of you felt the same way. But what made the difference, and I didn't answer his question right away, whether we chair his campaign, but what made me change my mind was this. When we walked into that auditorium in Manassas, and it really wasn't all that big, but it was probably from here to about the size of this restaurant, and packed, and people were leaning in and screaming and yelling And there was so much excitement. I'd never seen anything like it, ever in politics on either side, Republican, Democrat. So we're in for something. This is a change. There's something happening in our country right now, and I could see it right at that point. I know a lot of you could too. And then my brother, he drives one of these pilot cars, around wide loads around the country and all that other stuff. He's never been political in his entire life. And he called me up one day, and he said, "Well, so who are you going to support for president?" I said, "I don't know. I've got my own problems. I'm not even thinking about it right now." He goes, "Well, I'm supporting Trump." I said, "You're what? You're supporting Trump?" He goes, "I'm telling you, Corey, there's so much support for Donald Trump in the middle of the country. The average person, people who have never ever been active in politics before. So when you today when you hear this criticism, when you hear establishment Republicans, and by the way, and I say establishment Democrats and establishment Republicans, but I repeat myself. Because the fact is that the Republicans and the Democrats, the establishment wings of both of these parties, are identical in practice. They may sound a little different. They may sound a little bit different, but in reality, the effect is the same. And so now, for the first time, you have a president since Ronald Reagan, since 36 years, who comes from the outside and is challenging, for the first time in 36 years, the status quo. And can we actually be surprised that they are going nuts? They are absolutely falling apart, and that's the reason for it. So let's give them some patience. There already has been, and people don't talk about this, the success. And by the way, I want to introduce somebody who's running for lieutenant governor. He's going to be a great running mate. Bryce Reeves just came in. He used to be a cop, by the way, in Prince William County. Yeah. So, we're going to see a lot of this. And by the way, at this point in his campaign, President Trump has signed into legislation more laws than any other president in modern history in the first 100 days of his presidency. He has overturned through executive orders more regulations than any other president in the first 100 days of his presidency. And the stock market has taken off and has reached new heights and has grown than any other president in the first 100 days of his presidency. So he's keeping his promises. We have to be patient. There are things that all of us would like to get done, and one of the big things is, and I know there's a lot of us here who care a lot about this issue, and that's the illegal immigration. We must build the wall and secure our border. And we have to provide for internal enforcement as well. It's not enough. It's not enough just that we secure the border. The border will never be 100% secure. But what we also have to have in this country is that if somebody is here illegally and they commit a crime and they're identified as an illegal immigrant, after they serve their sentence, they should be handed over to ICE and be deported from the United States of America. And I'm going to talk about this, I'm not going to talk about policy too much, but I'm going to explain why this is so important. Because just about a month ago, here in Virginia, in Lynchburg, a 17-year-old boy was abducted by MS-13, a criminal illegal alien gang, 80% of whose members are illegal aliens. They abducted him, they mutilated him, and then they killed him. It's happening not just in Northern Virginia with the abductions of young girls and young women. It's not just happening in Hampton Roads. It's happening all across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And for once, we have a president of the United States who's not going to put his head in the sand and pretend like we don't have a problem with criminal, illegal immigrants. So look, folks, we did the hard work. We got President Trump elected. We took back the White House in 2016, but we have ways to go. because we're not just fighting the Democrats, we're not just fighting the media, we are fighting the establishment. And as President Trump puts his life and his fortune and his career on the line, we need to make sure that together we have his back and we help him to take our country back. Thank you all very much.